Hello, Kaiju United. We are live from San Diego Comic-Con. I'm here with Jacoby Salcedo and Julio Anta. We're here to talk No Gods, No Masters, which hits comic shops on September 2nd. Real quick, guys, for those that aren't aware of the book, do you want to give me a basic rundown, maybe an elevator pitch?
Yeah, definitely. So No Gods, No Masters is the story about three teenagers trying to survive the Kaiju apocalypse. It starts when a massive Kaiju emerges out of the East River in New York City, wreaks havoc on the city, and these three teenagers go on a journey to try to find one of their moms who's stuck underneath a train station. There's no power in the city, and really it's a survival book. It's a book about teenagers who are not trying to stop the Kaiju apocalypse. They're not trying to save humanity. They're just trying to save themselves.
Well said.
Yeah.
You got any thoughts?
I couldn't add anything more. It's one part Walking Dead, one part Paper Girls, all kaiju.
Awesome. Well, I know you guys kind of went into the general idea that this is a survival story. I know the characters, because I've read the book, just full disclosure, are teenagers. They're not, figures of authority that we typically see in kaiju media. How did you find that right balance between, a lot of kaiju readers might be like, man, these kids have a lot of plot armor going on, How did you find those stakes in that kind of story?
Yeah, I think for me, every time I watch a kaiju movie or even when I read superhero comics, I think about what are the lives of the regular people in Gotham, in Spider-Man's New York City, in a Godzilla movie, when Godzilla's rampaging, through a town, or when Ultraman is fighting a kaiju. Like, what is it like to be a food delivery worker? What is it like to be a nurse? So for me, it's really just about what are the lives of these real characters who are just trying to survive, and if we center the story on those characters while still providing really fun kaiju action, I think that's how we strike the balance.
Julio's, I think, got that core idea of real people in these dramatic settings, and just having this real POV during a kaiju attack. I think it's just a different take that you don't usually see in any, specifically even kaiju genre.
Well said. I know I'm not going to spoil anything because the book doesn't come out for 2 months, but I know early on you guys set those stakes pretty high. Was that a call you wanted to make originally, or was that just something you decided needs to happen in order for the story to really feel that realness of survival?
Yeah, I mean, Jacoby and I both grew up watching kaiju movies, collecting kaiju toys. I'm sure we'll talk about that more later. But, a Godzilla movie is some of the highest stakes, especially if you're thinking about, 54, you're thinking about -1, these very grounded, horror movies, essentially. So taking those influences and putting it into our book was essential. Yes, the city is being destroyed. That's huge stakes for the world, but for a kid whose mom is 130 blocks away, trapped underneath a subway station, that's the biggest stakes in the world.
Yeah, and also I think it's just from our previous work together, we tell stories from POVs that aren't usually told. It's a lot of migrant voices, the stories do follow that, and we do have a kid, our main character, Felipe. He's a migrant from Venezuela. Actually, he's a refugee from Venezuela from an already established kaiju attack. So,
That was a spoiler, but it's okay. Well, that's so. It's an exclusive spoiler.
Exclusive. There
to
you
this
go.
interview.
It's essential. But we're building this world, and we want to make sure that our voices are also very much intact to this book.
Yeah.
Well said. This might be better for Jacoby, but feel free to chime in. I was watching a few more interviews that you did, Julio, where you talked about the kaiju's design and kind of some of the perhaps indigenous influences that went into that kaiju's design. When we were looking at what this creature looked like, I don't know if it's been shown publicly, but it kind of gave us Pacific Rim kaiju kind of vibes. But I want to know more about the more indigenous influences that went into it. Was there more of a cultural spin on the kaiju, or was it just let's make him look cool kind of thing?
Yeah, to give one last exclusive spoiler, in issue 1 we established that the attack on New York is not the first kaiju attack. There was actually an attack already that happened in Venezuela. And now this is the exclusive spoiler, there are kaijus that are emerging all over the world. And every single kaiju is actually linked to indigenous folklore of the area where it has emerged. So the kaiju that emerged in Venezuela is based on this like ogre cryptid of Venezuelan folklore. And the one in New York City is a North American sort of cryptid that sometimes manifests itself in their mythology as very large and sometimes smaller. And we explore a lot of that also in some of the back matter of our issues. We put a lot of really cool like in-universe documents and subreddits in issue 2. Where people are speculating about this kind of stuff in the universe. So yeah, that was one of the original ideas for the book, is to there's so many like those of us who love kaiju media. There's so many amazing kaijus, and it's very easy when you make like original kaijus for it to feel like, okay, this is a Godzilla inspired kaiju. Mm-hmm. This is a Pacific Rim or an Ultraman. There's already been so many different designs, but what we wanted to do is instead go back into history, go back into folklore, and use that as our inspiration.
Yeah, and also, I mean, like just building off of like the context of our stories, like the Amikuk is like sea-based, like water-based, so like I wanted the kaiju designs to reflect that, so like I have this hammerhead kind of design, and yeah, like the Pacific Rim, it was always like, it was going to be difficult to just try to find an original design and trying to make something for ourselves, and like, yeah, I mean, all the Ultraman kaiju designs, that's just like, you're bound to like kind of recreate one of them, but like trying to stick to something that fits to also the context of like what the story is. So yeah.
So the title "No Gods, No Masters," obviously that could refer to like the youth and the anarchism that happens in survival scenarios like this. Do you think it could also refer to the kaiju? Is that something that you were thinking about with your story? Because I mean, if you break down a kaiju as like an archetypal character, they answer to nobody. They are these gods almost, that defy all logic and should not exist. Yeah. Was that something you guys had in mind for that title? Or
yeah, I mean, you mentioned like the anarchist roots of that statement. This is a book about poor and working class teenagers. That's our focus throughout all of it. When Jacoby draws the kaiju attacking New York, he places the camera, on humans, and you see nurses, you see, construction workers trying to escape it, right? It's so... For me, it was important to center workers, center real everyday people, working class people. So that title is definitely a nod to that. But like you said, also to these godlike creatures who, again, answer to no one, but are also in some ways unstoppable. But to our characters, they eventually do find out how to stop some of them, and they do fight back. So it almost feels like a rallying cry to me as well.
Nice.
I mean, when I will give credit to Julio. He came up with the title, and when I heard it, I was just like, it's just like, well, yeah, you're just like, you hear it, and I think you're just already intrigued by it. So,
yeah,
nice.
He did good.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, a couple more for you guys. Mm-hmm. Lastly, in the panel we were just at, you guys said that, with creator-owned books, you guys want to make the book and you want to tell a story when you do these books. I know we kind of went over the themes of the story, but aside from we want to do kaiju, we've been fans for a long time, and we want to focus on the immigrant, working class individuals. What is the story you guys want to tell with this book? What was the driving force behind it?
Yeah, I think the driving force, on top of everything that you mentioned, is really telling a survivor story, right? Jacoby mentioned The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead is one of the comics that got me back into comics as an adult. The other one he mentioned is Paper Girls, which is a coming-of-age story. And throughout our history as, creators and working as partners, creative partners, we've always told coming-of-age stories, We've written for young adults. This book is written for adults, but it stars teenagers, and I think for me it's so easy for me to go back to those feelings of being a teenager and feeling like the whole world is out of control, and I'm also trying to forge my own path and my own identity and figure out who I am as a person. And then what if in the midst of all of that, some of my favorite movies come to life, and I have to survive it. So I think that's a lot of what we were trying to do with the book.
Yeah.
So I got to hardball you guys a little bit
Yeah.
because the kaiju community is kind of eager to see new projects.
Yep.
A lot of stories do center around the humans, and a lot of kaiju fans are like, we just want to see those monsters. Come on, show them off. So two-parter, I guess. First part is like, with your story, a lot of kaiju stories do go to that human level because I think it's fundamental to the genre. Might be a hot take, but that's okay. But like, you have your -1s and stuff. Mm-hmm. What makes your story kind of stand out amongst some of that? What will entice the kaiju readers to come check this out?
Yeah, well, we've talked a lot about the human story, but the kaijus, like, the designs are incredible. Jacoby just knocked it out of the park with the designs. And as much as we have talked about the human element, there is a ton of kaiju destruction, a ton of kaiju action. Without spoiling too much, I mentioned that our, story's tall giant kaiju emerges from the East River, attacks New York City. But in the first 3 pages of the book, it's a cold open, and you can see that they're not fighting a kaiju that is, 5 stories, 6 stories tall. They're fighting a kaiju that's more like the size of an elephant. So there is a lot of mystery around this book also. How, a lot of time has passed since, the genesis of the kaiju emerging. So why are they smaller now? What is this mystery about all the other kaijus that have emerged throughout the world? And also, what happens when they do make it to the train station? So another thing that we talk in the book, when we go back to the day that the kaijus emerge, it says the first occurrence. Mm-hmm. So if it's the first occurrence, how many more other occurrences are there? And how does the kaiju behave differently? And how do we get to this point where there are seemingly dozens or hundreds of small kaiju roaming around New York City? So, I think the mystery element of it too is something that's exciting. But if you want to see, kaiju fans sort of playing with toys in this book, like playing with our own toys, I think that'll be fun for readers.
Cool. Yeah, and I think I know, the human characters, sometimes I am that fan, that watcher where I'm just like, I want to see them fight. And I mean, me and Julio agree on that one too. I feel like with our story specifically too, it's just like we have such a grounded perspective. Yeah. Because yes, there is the tall kaiju and then these smaller ones and, that mystery of it. But I think it's like, I feel like that smaller one is also like such a looming threat and more like kind of leans into that kaiju horror where it's just like, what's going to happen to our characters and, where did these smaller ones come from? So, yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys. Earlier in the panel, they talked about buying kaiju toys. Yeah. I got to know what you guys are buying. Like, are you guys X Plus dudes? Or are you Sofubi fanatics?
Mostly Sofubis. I mean, I started with Super 7, like the small scale ones, and I just bought a bunch of those. And then eventually, we did a convention in LA Comic Con. And long story short, Jacoby owed me some money. And then we went... well, it was a little boy math for me to buy a really expensive Sofubi. We went to Little Tokyo, and there's this plaza with all these stores that sell, Sofubis and kaiju toys. And I saw a Jiras, which I loved, beautifully like green painted. And I forget how much, it was like $250.
Nah,
200?
It was... I'm not going to spend that much on him. It was like 110. So
okay, was it all right?
I wasn't that much in debt to you.
Well, either way, the boy math of it is that it only cost me $15 because he owed me the difference. So, and then that was my first Sofubi. I mean, he's like the real toy collector.
Yeah. I'm doing Sofubis. I got Marusan, some Bull Marks. I do a lot of the Brain Dead collabs I do with Yamakichi. But I've been trying to slowly get into like the indie Sofubi stuff. I mean, I just like how like goofy the like older like vintage look, like the Garumon Sofubis, where he's just like looks like it's just like all legs and like that's like I think there's just something about those figures that I'm just like the goofiness. The realistic ones, I mean, like they look amazing when you see them, but I'm just like I can only stick to one because if I try to do like all Godzilla figures, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, guys. Last question, kind of a fun fan one. I guess we can do 4 favorites because that's an easy thing. Like 4 favorite kaiju films, books, whatever you want to do.
Okay, well, I think one that we would both agree on is the Hidra film.
Oh yeah,
We both love that one. I really loved -1. Like, I know that's not a hot take, but but like, you know, that's literally one of my favorites. I was talking to you earlier about Ultra Q.
Yeah.
My son and I have been doing a watch through the box set. I'm really enjoying Ultraman Tio right now.
Nice.
But yeah, well, that's 4.
Yeah, I think so.
But you know what? Son of Godzilla was the first Godzilla movie I ever saw on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Nice.
And I thought that all Godzilla movies were just really like doofy and like I hadn't watched the original Godzilla. I hadn't watched the lot yet, but so that one still holds a special place in my heart.
Cool.
Yeah. The Hidra definitely -1, just like crazy experience. Jet Jaguar,
Oh yeah.
like I mean, just that the tail kick is so.
yeah.
And I would say honestly, one to keep it comic related is Godzilla Infinity War by James Stocco,
Oh, nice.
who we're gonna have a variant cover by.
Yeah.
It's
Issue number 2.
Issue 2, gonna have a variant
Is this
cover by.
new?
We're breaking news
Breaking
here.
news to you. You got a lot of exclusives out of us.
Oh, no.
You just had to stand there and just
Yeah,
look
What
at
you guys
Just
thought.
wait for us to spoil things.
Yeah, we're going to spoil everything.
Those are great. All right. Well, thank you guys both for taking the time to chat with us at San Diego Comic-Con. And then the book comes out September 2nd. Is that right?
September
September
2nd.
And then the final day to order is next Monday.
Yes,
July
July
27th. Sorry.
That's it.
All right. Sweet. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.